If you're about to buy your first home in Jacksonville, you've probably heard the advice from friends, family, and even read about it on social media. But how much of it is actually true? Today, I'm busting the top 3 myths. Myth number 1, you have to have absolutely perfect credit. That is absolutely not true. Perfect credit is like 850 credit score. Some people brag about being in the 800s, but really, in all honesty, it doesn't really matter. Usually, if you can be in the 720, 750 range, you'll get the best rate, the same as someone in the 800 range. But don't tell anybody who's bragging about their 850 score, because they're going to fight with you and not agree. But you absolutely don't have to have perfect credit. You could even, and people are going to clutch their pearls, you can even have bankruptcy on your credit and still be able to buy a home. Okay? But not right away. It's not like you can go and file tomorrow, have it done and over with, and then the next day you can buy a house. No, it does take time. You do have to build your credit. But you don't have to wait the 10 years when it comes off your credit. So that is a good thing. Renting is cheaper than buying. Okay, so this one I was a little hesitant to add because there are times that maybe renting is cheaper than buying. Because let's say, you buy a house and then things happen and break and you start throwing money at it. Whereas when you're renting, if something breaks, depending on your lease, your landlord has to fix it. So that could be cheaper depending on the item. But if you're buying a newer house where those items are fairly new or have warranties, the monthly payment on buying a house is usually a lot cheaper than rent. And that's even if you include not only the principal and the interest, but also your homeowner's insurance and the taxes that are escrowed. There's a lot of times that it is cheaper. And I'm going to give you a real life scenario, okay? So we bought our house in 2021. Our payment has went up since then, not our principal and interest. That does not change. What changes in a mortgage payment is the mortgage insurance. Let me back up. Not the mortgage insurance, but the homeowner's insurance and your property taxes. Those can change, and ours has changed. So our payment now is a little over $1,200 a month. Now on the same street, the house across the street from us, and now I'm recording this in 2025, September. So if you're watching this in 2050, it's going to be different. But the house across the street is a little bit bigger because they added a Florida room. But as far as rent wise, they're asking $1,750 a month. So $1,750 a month compared to our $1,200 a month. Well, a little over $1,200, $1,232 to be exact. So there is a difference. It would be a lot more expensive for us to rent the house across the street. And look, I'm pointing like you know where I'm talking about, but the house is right across the street from me. So there are times, a lot of times, that buying a home is cheaper, plus all your payments, that principal is going to the balance. So you're knocking that amount off. And depending on how long you have the house and when you sell it, you're going to make some equity from it. Whereas when you rent, you don't make any equity from it. So hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so number 3 is you have to have 20% down. No, folks, you do not have to have 20% down. That started back in the day. I mean, like 30 years ago, 40, 50 years ago, when the price for the house was really, really cheap. So coming up with 20% down wasn't as crazy as it is now. Now it is really, really hard. Now, if you can put 20% down, that's going to benefit you because it's going to have your payment lower. You're not going to have that private mortgage insurance on it because you're putting 20 or more percent down. It's going to get your balance knocked down more. So there's a lot of positives. But let's be realistic. not everyone has 20%. So there are programs where you may have to have 3.5%, 5%. There's even some programs where it's a grant for 1% down that you have to have, and then you have a grant that takes care of the rest. Now, when I talk about down payment, that's totally different than your closing costs. Those are in addition to your down payment, but sometimes you can get down payment assistance that covers that as well. Now, stay tuned. I am going to show you a video at the end where it is talking about 20% down myth. That is not true. And I go over the different programs for you. So you have different options. So you know you don't have to have 20% down. Now, I did add a bonus. Now, that bonus is you can have your mocha chocolate latte espresso and your avocado toast and eat them both too. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that, right? It never fails. I'll read an article that says, hey, affordability for buyers has really been difficult. And there's always someone, at least a handful of people who talk about, wow, if they didn't go to Starbucks and spend $800 on a latte and avocado toast, they could have their down payment. Okay, that's just crazy. And I do go to Starbucks. Not every day. I make my own coffee at home too. But I do go to Starbucks. They aren't the cheapest show around, but they're not the most expensive either. And they're not going to cause you to not be able to have money for down payment or closing costs. What's going to cause that is the current economic picture that we're facing. That's the things that cause it, not your Starbucks and your avocado toast. So there you have it. The 3 biggest myths that home buyers have in Jacksonville. And now that you know, you're actually ahead of the game. But here's the thing. Every buyer's situation is different, and you probably still have questions about your path to home ownership. So that's where I come in. Reach out to me. 904-910-3516. Text or call, whichever you prefer. And let's discuss your plan of attack for buying a house. And also check out my latest video on why you do not need 20% down to buy your first home and the different programs that can help you come up with less money.